Unitarian Universalist West Side congregation. Thank you for joining our online service today. I'm Laurel Anderson, Service Associate, and our speaker today is our consulting minister, the Reverend Dr. Nancy Hitt. Our service is titled Alone Together. It is based on principles 1 and 7, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and the respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. Along with source 2, words and deeds of prophetic women and men, which challenges us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and transforming power of love. We hope you find these in evidence in our program and are able to practice them with renewed enthusiasm in your life. Our thanks to Carol Eaglehart, who is serving as our videographer today. If you have never visited Westside before, we welcome you. We hope that you will visit us in person when we're able to return to our on-site services and programming. Please contact us through our website at uuwestside.org with questions or more information. Here are the announcements for today. On Sunday, July 5th, the church will be staffed and open to receive your Storehouse West donations from 10 to 2 p.m. Please consult your email for specific suggestions for donations. Ramen noodles and any kind of canned or dry goods are especially welcome, along with your recycled plastic bags. Please wear a mask when you drop off your donations. Thank you. Beginning on Sunday, July 12th, we will be including a moment for friends and family in our online service. If you would like to participate in that, please consult your church email or contact Reverend Nancy at ministeruuwc@gmail.com for more information. We'd love to give you an opportunity to show off your garden or artwork or whatever you would like to share with our congregation, along with a short greeting or interview. Despite our need to keep social distance, we can still connect with one another. Also on July 12th, we will hold our first ever online town hall meeting. Please consult your church email for more detailed information, especially if you do not want to use Zoom but would like to participate using your regular phone. You will be sent either a link to a Zoom call or a phone buddy on Friday the 10th of July, along with a brief agenda. Please do not delete your church email. You will need the information in it to participate in the meeting. We are looking forward to seeing and hearing from you then. It is our custom to begin our time together by lighting our chalice. If you have a personal candle or chalice at home, draw it closer to you. Please join me in the words on your screen as we light our chalice together. Our chalice holds but a single flame. It is independent. It is also part of the larger element of fire. May we observe it closely, learning how to be ourselves more brightly and integrate it into the community more brilliantly, sharing the light and warmth with all. Shalom and blessed be. Please join me now in affirming our aspirations as the words appear on your screen. Life is a gift. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and mysteries of this great gift. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. Shalom. Now, Reverend Nancy will lead us in a moment of centering.
I invite you now to sit back and relax wherever you are. Uncross your ankles, knees, wrists. Let the energy flow unimpeded through your body. Close your eyes gently if you are comfortable doing so. Focus your attention on your breathing. Breathing fully and deeply in and out. Inhaling new energy, exhaling tension. Just sit with yourself, comfortably, calmly, breathing slowly and deeply. Into your mind's eye, let a photo album appear. Open it to discover pictures of all of the groups, all the communities, all the organizations you have ever belonged to. The pictures go way back to childhood playmates, scouts, teenage friends, after-school clubs, religious organizations, college clubs, professional organizations. There are pictures of you with your first family, parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, with your current family, with all of the families that you have ever called your own. The album is thick with photos. There isn't time to view them all right now. As you flip through the pages, consider, how did belonging in these groups or pairings affect you? Are you diminished? Are you enhanced? How did belonging affect the person that you know yourself to be? Now, gather your attention back up, returning your focus to your breathing. Know that you can revisit your album at any time. Breathe slowly and deeply, in and out, returning your awareness to the here and now. And when you are ready, open your eyes. Shalom. It is our custom each week to share our joys and concerns with each other. It helps us to be connected to each other in ways that we know matter. If you have a personal joys and concerns candle, please draw it closer to you now. This week, we are happy to share several joys with various members. Laurel and her husband, Jay, celebrated their 39th anniversary on Friday, July 3rd. We rejoice with them that vows made 39 years ago continue to be valued, honored, and celebrated today. I would also like to share the fact that I have become a grand aunt again. My husband's nephew and his wife have just had their first baby. Penelope arrived at 9 pounds and 1 ounce this past week, and she will be known as Penny. Of concern to us is Priscilla's 7-year-old granddaughter, Riley. Riley fell off her bike and broke her right leg last week. She is in a cast and on crutches. We hope that healing is rapid and that she is able to enjoy her bike again in the future. We also light a candle for John Paul Polo, the husband of Laurel's friend, who is currently undergoing treatment for a recurrence of cancer that he hoped to have beaten. Our thoughts and prayers for complete healing go out to him. We also lift up Melinda's dad, who had a procedure on his leg veins this past week. He's doing well and is feeling better. His other leg will be done in 2 weeks from now, so please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. We light a last white candle for all that we still hold unspoken in our own hearts and minds. Please light your personal candle now, too. For all of the political unrest and jockeying for power and position, we hold concern. For new legislation that will improve things for people in need, we hold joy. For the ongoing work of dismantling racism and repairing the damage it has done for so long, we hold both deep concern and joy. We hope that real change will happen that will address historical wrongs. We hope that new relationships and better understanding will grow among all people. For all of the victims of racial violence, we light this red candle in honor of their struggle and of their lives. Shalom and blessed be.
Did you know that the vital function that pets fulfill in this world hasn't been fully recognized? They keep millions of people sane. They have become our guardians of being. Now this poem is a little kitty, and it's called Can't Stop. Ceiling, wall, floor. Wall, ceiling, wall. Floor, wall, ceiling, wall, floor. Wall, please, someone, get me out of this rolling hamster ball.
Hi there, it's time for us to do our moment for all ages. And surprise of surprises, I have a new friend. This is Beverly the Bee. Beverly is going to teach us some things about being individuals and living in community. You see, there are many different kinds of bees, and they're all very strong individuals, and they all belong to some kind of community also. Now, probably most of you are most familiar with honeybees. Honeybees build hives. They make wax combs that are hexagonal cells, little openings with 6 sides, and they make honey to take care of their young. There are several different kinds of honeybees. There are worker bees, which is what Beverly looks most like, and they are all female, but they never reproduce. There are drones who are male and hope to mate with the queen, and then there is the queen bee herself, who is responsible for laying all the eggs in the hive. The worker bees build the wax combs that keep the eggs safe, and they store honey to feed the baby bees. The worker bees live about 45 days. The male drones live about 90 days, but the queen bee, she lives anywhere from 4 to 7 years. Each bee has its own job in the hive so that baby bees are born and fed. Depending on their age, the female worker bees move from feeding honey to baby bees to taking care of the queen. They clean the hive, collect food, and guard the colony, and they build the wax combs. That is a lot of work for a little bee, which is probably why 99% of all bees are worker bees. Every one of them is needed for the hive to survive. And then there are mason bees, who are also real bees, but who don't build a hive at all. Instead, each mason bee mother finds a hollow, round space to lay her eggs in and builds a mud wall between each egg. This is a whole different way to be a bee. Mason bees don't make honey. Their babies feed from pollen instead. This makes them great pollinators of plants as they collect it for their offspring. The mother puts all of the female eggs in the back end of the hollow tube and the male ones in front. She builds a mud wall between each egg along with its store of food. This is why we call them mason bees, because they built these walls. They do this so that the males hatch first in the spring and are ready to mate with the female mason bees when they finally emerge from the tube. Once mated, the female bees work to find appropriate hollow spaces that are suitable for them to nest in, and they gather pollen to store with each egg that they lay. Mason bees are very, very busy. They live about 4 to 6 weeks after they emerge as bees. Now, see this barn? This is a bee barn. Yes, now Beverly's fascinated because as a worker bee, a worker honeybee, she would live in a hive. But this is what mason bees would live in. All these little circular openings are homes for mother mason bees to lay first the female eggs toward the back and then the male ones toward the front, along with the pollen for them to eat and building a wall in between each one. Unlike honeybees, mason bees don't sting unless you squeeze them or get them really, really wet. But other than that, mason bees are very peaceful. We have 2 bee barns that we will eventually be putting outside on our church grounds. Someday, if you see bees buzzing around these bee barns, don't worry. They won't sting you, and since they don't make honey, they won't make a mess. But they will help pollinate our desert landscape. There we go. So, there you have 2 different ways for bees to be bees. There are honeybees who live in a communal hive that they build and tend together, and there are mason bees who accomplish the same goal of raising their young safely, but work alone and don't make any honey at all. Thank you, Beverly, for sharing all of that with us. And folks, you need to know that there are actually around 25,000 different species of bees in our world. That is a lot of different ways to be a bee. Thanks, Beverly. Now I'm going to put her back down in her shared hidey hole here. And Laurel will now speak to our gifts of love and commitment.
Thank you for your continuing to send your pledges and other financial contributions. It takes all of us working together to keep Westside healthy and strong, especially during the pandemic. We are grateful that your loyalty enables us to meet our expenses and maintain our facility despite our absence from it. Our mailing address is P.O. Box 15146 in Rio Rancho, or you may use the PayPal button on our website. Again, thank you for your thoughtfulness. Now, Reverend Nancy will share a reading by Norman Cousins with us.
This reading is titled, "The Body is Humankind." I am a single cell in a body of 4 billion cells. The body is humankind. I am a single cell. My needs are individual, but they are not unique. I am interlocked with other human beings in the consequences of our actions, thoughts, and feelings. I will work for human unity and human peace, for a moral order in harmony with the order of the universe. Together, we share the quest for a society of the whole equal to our needs. A society in which we need not live beneath our moral capacity, and in which justice has a life of its own. We are single cells in a body of 4 billion cells. The body is humankind. We Unitarian Universalists, as United States citizens, as adults who prize our independence, we have a real thing about our autonomy, our individuality, our sense of ourselves as single units of body, mind, and spirit. We have rights. We are self-determined. We are the boss of us, and no one else has a right to compromise our integrity or coerce or force us into doing or believing or being anything other than what we have decided we want to do or believe or be. Maybe we should adopt the pattern of the Mason bees. Each of us build our own little walled-in world for our offspring, supply them with a store of food, and call it done. We certainly know that we don't want to be like honeybees. As much as we may enjoy honey, the intense communal living that honeybees have developed in service to a single queen appeals to very few people. One of the scariest enemies of the Star Trek series was the Borg, a collective communal species of humanoid creatures who blended scientific and technological advances with human bodies. They were repugnant to many. They had no names, only a number referring to the order in which they were created. They had specific jobs assigned to them. Creativity was the equivalent of treason. And anyone, even Jean-Luc Picard, could be turned into one and robbed of their independent humanity. Nightmares are made of stuff like that. Human beings have been struggling to figure out how to be the best possible human beings for an awfully long time. Since prehistoric times, humankind has worked to define what it means to be human, to describe what a human person ought to do and believe and be. We've come a long way in our self-understanding, but we are very far from having resolved this question. We're stuck with 2 basic truths about ourselves. We cannot survive from birth alone, and when we're grown, we want the power to do what we want. We're stuck in relationship and trying our hardest to make sure that that doesn't matter. We see this in the small decisions of everyday life, and we see it writ large in history as groups of people, calling themselves nations, fight to the death for the privilege of self-government. Our nation celebrated Independence Day yesterday. We still pay attention to the battles fought to separate us from Great Britain. In the 1600s and 1700s, people had the idea that this was a new country that wanted to do things differently. People wanted to claim new freedoms and build a new structure for how to live together. And so they did. Some of it is grand and inspiring. Some of it's ordinary. And some of it is the stuff of despair and tragedy. We're still building our new nation. The good news is that despite the pain, we're still learning lessons that teach us how to do that in ways that are developing the best ways to be human, both as individuals and as communities or states, as a nation. That struggle for autonomy versus community is built into our nation at multiple levels. We are one nation, but we have 50 states. Every single state has its own government and laws and customs and traditions. We all have our own state birds and state flowers and even state cookies. The bizcochito is ours. It's as if our national anthem should be, "I gotta be me." And we never lose that tune, no matter how big or how small we get. We seem to have a hard time sharing. We each want our own of pretty much everything. We want to do it our way, perhaps suggesting that "I did it my way" is our alternative anthem. And sometimes autonomy does make the best sense. The revolution was resounding with slogans like "No taxation without representation." Our species has evolved to the point where we know that if something is going to affect someone, that person needs a voice in the process. Or at least, we know that if we're not abusing our own power. We see this struggle in the context of racism, of feminism, in matters of sexuality and of poverty and of ableism. We see it whenever any elite group claims the power to decide what's best for others because it's what's best for them. King George of Great Britain may have been the original foe to demand our freedom from, but sadly, it seems that we incorporated his oppressive practices into our new nation. We see this clearly at work in our current learning curve with racism and every other form of elitism, as we still struggle with them. And all of this, despite our declaration that all people are created equal. Before the pandemic, one of our religious ed classes was studying a UU self-critique of our denomination. One of the 3 primary critiques offered was that UUs are hung up on individualism. We are so concerned about the integrity of the individual that we have tied ourselves up in knots. Too often, a single naysayer can bring a UU process to a halt. The author pointed out that that isn't individuality being valued. That's individualism being enshrined. What ought to be a source of creative energy becomes instead an idol blocking our path to genuine growth and community. UUs place a premium on the rights of individuals. We are very clear that all people must have equal voice in decisions that will ultimately affect them. In seeking relief from the human propensity for oppression, this is a good thing. But we also know that people grow in groups. Life is facilitated by relationships. We are not singular creatures. We live in community. Finding the balance between individuality and community, which of course is made up of individuals, is a challenge. As a denomination, we are reluctant to accept that community requires compromise and sacrifice in a way that individualism does not. Again, catch the distinction between individuality and individualism. Often we human beings look to the world of nature for unspoiled models of how things ought to be. Nature is pretty consistent in being helpful, but not in providing us with a single acceptable right answer. Nature thrives on variety. Seriously, 25,000 species of bees? Did anyone know that we needed that many? I didn't. But they're all bees, and they're not all the same. There are multiple models to try. Evolution offers us a lot of choices. So, where to start? Perhaps with the old adage, know thyself. As a species, we human beings have learned a lot about ourselves. To the best of our knowledge, we have the most advanced self-awareness of any species on the planet. So let's use it. Some people are introverts. Some are extroverts. Some introverts have mad social skills and engage very well with others. Some extroverts are shy and hate the social scene. But before we can make decisions regarding what is best for anyone, we need to know who we are and how we operate. We need to know what matters to us. So far, so good. That's what individuality is all about, and we're pretty good at that. But at some point, we reach the place where there is an interface between us and others, and we discover that we live in relationship, and in fact, we always have. Despite our strenuous claim that there is no one exactly like us, which is true, it is equally true that there are hordes of people who are a lot like us. In fact, there are people on this planet that we don't know now and will never meet in the future who are amazingly like us. It's kind of mind-boggling. And out of this potential horde of relationships, we build something we call community, which we are also quick to assert is a really good thing. In fact, our relationships with our communities help us define ourselves as individuals. But we're a bit ambivalent about belonging. Sometimes we feel outnumbered. Sometimes we feel overpowered. Sometimes we're not sure we're really wanted or belong in a particular community. Sometimes it feels like belonging is asking too much of us. We may have to sacrifice some important to us part of ourselves in order to be a member in good standing of a particular community. These are important considerations, but here's the key. Individuality and community are not either-or propositions. They are both and propositions. To be healthy, we need both. Sometimes communities are toxic and need to be rejected for something healthier. Sometimes individuals are toxic and need to be rejected for someone healthier. Sometimes individuals are healthy and require sacrifice of themselves in order to grow. Sometimes communities are healthy and require sacrifice on the part of individuals in order to grow. All of these things are true and also very unsettling. Of course, not that long ago, we didn't have to think too hard about much of any of this. We moved freely on autopilot in and out of many different groups and communities, and we nurtured our individuality freely. And then COVID-19 hit and the pandemic ensued. And now we are faced in an upfront and very personal way with daily decisions about who to be in community with and how to be in community with them. People have protested vehemently that the wearing of a mask or other facial covering is an affront to their individuality. One protester spelled it out when they said, "My face is unique to me. I only get one. This is the face that God gave me. I'm not covering it up for anyone." Well, regardless of who you think gave you your face or how you may have decorated it. Makeup, tattoos, piercings. It's pretty true that we each only get one. It's how we are recognized, both by ourselves and each other. It's a signature piece of our individuality. So it's pretty precious. We're in a dilemma. We're being asked to sacrifice one of the things we value most about ourselves, our faces. Because without that mask, we run the risk of infecting others or being infected by them. It's not a guarantee, but it's a definite help when it comes to controlling a potentially fatal virus. And at this time, it isn't just some parts of the population that comprise specific communities that are being asked to make this sacrifice. It's everyone. We're all in the same community, the community of people susceptible to the COVID-19 virus. Many of us wear a mask because we know ourselves to be at risk, as are people that we know and love if we were to bring the virus home to them. But some of us aren't at high risk and feel like we can handle the odds. It's characteristic of teenagers, for example, to feel immortal and engage in all kinds of risky behavior. And in this instance, our governor has said that we all need to wear a mask, regardless of our individuality. We need to make this sacrifice for the larger community, whether it's our personal choice or not. Steps are in process to make it a law with consequences for not following it. And the larger question of who to be unmasked with continues to exist. Who do we live with that we accept as part of our social bubble, which is perhaps the newest image of the smallest unit of community these days? Where are we willing to go, even with our masks, and risk infection? For those of us who live alone, the pandemic has pushed us to living almost entirely alone. Even those of us who live together in larger numbers are isolated from anyone we previously engaged with outside of our household. The initial advice to shelter in place has evolved into the slogan, "We are alone together." Each of us is more alone than we ever used to be. To quote my extremely introverted daughter, who lives alone by choice, "You know, it's really different when they tell you you can't go out and be with other people." What had been an individual choice from within her is now imposed by the larger community, and it feels radically different. But alone together is a good expression for how things are right now. We need to be alone far more often than we ever used to be, for both our own protection and for the protection of others. But we also need to be together. We need people. And right about now, I can hear Barbara Streisand singing, "People who need people are the luckiest people." And we do all need people. Sometimes not too many, or maybe not too often, but we still all need people. We need to own that need and to honor it. So here are two things that we can do. First, we can share more information than we're used to with people. Because we don't spend as much time in shared activity with each other, we really need to tell each other what we're up to and how we're doing. So banish the word "fine" from your vocabulary. Don't make it part of your social responses. Give a little more than usual when someone asks how you are. You know you appreciate it when others share with you, It makes you feel needed and connected and important to them. So give that same gift to others. Don't tell them you're fine. At the very least, tell them how and why you're fine. And second, reach out in unusual or new ways to people. Seriously, if you hate online social media, use your phone. Even better, how about you write a good old-fashioned paper letter to someone? Since we're all stuck at home, getting mail is great. Give them a call, even if you have nothing special to say. Tell them you were thinking about them. That's enough to make most of us smile and feel loved. And if you're feeling really adventurous, get into a deep conversation that you might not otherwise ever have. Go on social media or Zoom or something and use it. There are ways to be together, even if they aren't in 3D face-to-face person. Try a walking visit outdoors that maintains social distancing. Do a drive-by visit and drop off flowers from your yard or a poem that you wrote. Ordinarily, you probably wouldn't do many, if any, of these things with your friends and family because you'd be busy doing other things directly with them. But these aren't ordinary times, and they're not going to be for a very long time. So use your imagination to reconnect with your community in new ways. There is no need to lose touch with people just because we can't literally touch them in the same ways that we're used to. And while you're at it, take some time to rethink what it means to be an individual and in community, not as an either-or proposition, but as a newly created both-and model. You will always be you. You will always be part of a community. Think about how and why you can do that in creative and healthy ways in the future. Volunteer to be part of our Moment for Friends and Family in our upcoming services video. Not comfortable with the idea of being part of a video? Consider it part of the new things that we are doing alone, together. Because seriously, folks, if I can survive doing this, you can too. Shalom. I invite you now to leave your remarks, questions, comments, either on our website service page or on our YouTube page. You may also email me at ministeruuwc@gmail.com. Thank you. It is now time for our chalice extinguishing. Please draw your personal chalice or candle closer to you and join me in reading the words as they appear on your screen as we extinguish our chalices together. Our flame is extinguished, yet the image lingers in our minds and in our hearts. May we use what we see by its light and embrace its warmth in our hearts so that we, too, are alone together. Shalom. May you know yourself well from the inside out in all of your marvelous individuality. May you know yourself well as the valued member of many a community. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere you go, whoever you are with, and however you have need. Shalom and blessed be.